Okay, let's get into it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really interesting ideas for maybe planning things a bit more cautiously in June 2025. We've been looking through some source material, specifically these excerpts talking about empty hands days. It's from Vedic Astrology. And really, our mission here is just to pull out the key takeaways from these notes. You know, if you're someone who thinks about timing or managing energy, or maybe just wants to avoid a bit of unnecessary chaos, this might be for you. So first things first, according to these sources, what exactly are these empty hands days?
Well, it's quite fascinating how these sources map things out. They link specific days to planetary movements, particularly the moon, within this Vedic system. And the core idea really is that empty hands days are times when the moon's energy is, let's say, less supportive for kicking off significant new things.
Less supportive.
Yeah, especially things like brand new beginnings or major financial moves.
So like things just feel a bit off or don't quite land right.
Precisely. That's how the sources describe it. You might feel like things don't really click or your efforts maybe lack a solid foundation. It's described as a kind of energy that doesn't easily, hold on to new initiatives or material gains. Think of it like trying to build something on ground that feels a little shaky.
Okay, unstable ground for new stuff. That definitely sounds like something useful to know about. So if the energy, according to this source, isn't great for starting things or big money moves, what does it specifically advise against doing?
The sources get pretty specific there, yeah. Building on that idea of unsupportive energy for new starts, they basically recommend avoiding initiating really big new projects, say starting a major home renovation from absolute scratch. And they also caution against making significant expensive purchases or, transferring large amounts of money, especially for new investments or deals.
Right. And the reasoning behind that caution, does the source give any examples of what might actually happen?
It does, yeah. It connects that unsupportive energy directly to potential outcomes. The source suggests things started on these days are just, maybe more prone to hitting snags. Examples given could be like a new gadget breaking down quickly, or transactions getting weirdly delayed or complicated, or maybe a project hitting immediate roadblocks, sometimes without a really obvious reason. It's seen as this kind of misalignment, where the day's energy doesn't properly carry the momentum needed for a fresh start.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's what the source says to be careful about. But it's not all just avoidance, is it? It kind of raises the question of how to work with this energy. The source does mention what these days are actually good for, right?
Absolutely. That's the other side of the coin. Yeah. The sources shift the focus from starting things to, finishing things, consolidating. They really emphasize that while new beginnings might struggle a bit, these days are considered pretty effective for completing tasks you've already got going. Could be anything, really. Finally finishing that report that's been hanging around, wrapping up a project phase, or even just, tackling those little nagging tasks on your to-do list.
So instead of pushing forward with something new, use the time to tie up loose ends.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. The sources specifically mention things like decluttering your space, clearing out closets, tidying your desk, just generally organizing what's already there. It's seen as a really good time for consolidation, review, putting things in order rather than expanding or starting fresh. It's about focusing inward on existing stuff.
That's actually a really helpful way to think about it. Not a bad day, just a different kind of focus. So let's bring this specifically to June 2025. The source gives us some actual dates where this energy is supposedly present.
It does, yeah, based on the calculations and observations laid out in the source material we looked at. The empty hands days for June 2025 are listed as June 3rd, June 4th, then the 9th, 14th, 19th, 23rd, and June 28th. Those are the specific dates the source suggests keeping this kind of timing in mind for.
Okay, got it. So just to recap the core idea from this source then, for June 2025, days like the 3rd, 4th, 9th, 14th, 19th, 23rd, and 28th, they're presented not as days to necessarily avoid altogether, but maybe as days strategically better suited for completing things, tidying up, consolidating, rather than launching major new projects or big financial commitments.
Right. And the sources kind of leave us with this interesting thought to ponder. This idea that understanding and using these days wisely suggests that sometimes actually pausing that forward push, focusing on consolidating or just bringing existing things to completion, that might actually be the most powerful and productive thing you can do. Even if it feels a bit counterintuitive when everything's always about new, it sort of encourages you, the listener, to reflect on this whole concept of strategic timing. Could building in moments for pause, for completion, for tidying up, maybe based on insights like these, could that actually lead to smoother sailing or better results in your plans overall? Definitely something to think about as you look at your June calendar.